Alright, what is going on everyone? Welcome back to the channel Connor on Chain. So, if you click the video from this title, I want to talk about this major narrative that I do believe has a lot of potential going into 2025 at some point. That narrative is a combination of physical AI and robotics mainly. I'm going to cover a bunch of, details within this narrative, why I'm really bullish on it. Then we'll get into a bunch of, pretty fundamentally sound projects that I've found. Obviously they're going to be different risk curves, but we'll check everything out. And keep in mind, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not meant to be a video where you buy every single coin, you just full port it and expect a 50x. Be realistic, be safe, be smart. This is strictly for research purposes right now. But I will tell you guys at the end of the video, which is my favorite, which are my favorites, and just where I expect things to go in the future within the narrative. So let's get into it. So obviously right now we got, actually I'm gonna pull up right here. We got robotics as the main narrative that I'm talking about today. So as far as 2024, because it just passed, the valuation of it was around 74 billion. So as far as what the robotics slash physical AI realm valuation is already at 74 billion, something like that. I'm trusting Google here, obviously with a grain of salt, and because robotics has a lot of different things within it, we'll just say it's somewhat around this, right? But now let's go into the 2030. So, in the next 6 years, what is this going to be worth? About $200 billion. So it's already a pretty hefty amount, and that is going to be about, I guess, a 14% annual growth rate. So it's not going to be this incredibly fast expanding narrative, but I do think this is going to be one that will be right in line within AI agents, because it actually ties into it in many different ways. And that's what I wanted to show here, because AI agents too. You can even go to the 2030 valuation, because right now the AI agent market is actually around $5 to $6 billion right now, so it's still very small. And by 2030, it's projected to be only, again, we're doing this off Google, but about a fourth of what AI agents are going to be. And so we just had NVIDIA have a major, a major meeting, major showcase, major keynote, 2025. He talks about the different steps of progression from perception AI to generative AI, agentic AI, and ultimately physical AI. This is an area I've actually been bullish on for many months, but it's actually pretty cool, pretty reassuring to see that the head of one of the largest companies in the world working on stuff like this is basically showing us where to invest next. As simple as that sounds, guys, that's also why I'm making this video, because this, I know for a fact, at some point will become a narrative, because apparently we are sitting within the generative AI area. Obviously, AI agents I still think have a ton of growth. I think they're going to maintain their relevance from now well into 2025. But I think robotics and physical AI itself is going to take up a lot of mind share and a lot of focus as well. And so a lot of you guys are probably wondering, well, okay, what does that even mean? What is physical AI when it comes to, this AI meta or anything like that? When it comes to physical AI, we're talking about, actually, I wanted to show you guys a video, so I'm actually just going to play it here. So he kind of tells you about what physical AI is, and then I'll say it in my own words. So let's just listen to this for a minute.
What if instead of PDFs, it's your surrounding? And what if instead of the prompt?
So here he's talking about how we got generative AI right now, which mainly, is you basically input your prompt into an LLM, and it spits out, some text, basically through information. But when it comes down to physical AI, it's going to be what he's saying here. And let's get into it and then finish
A
up.
question, it's a request. Go over there and pick up that box and bring it back. And instead of what is produced in tokens as text, it produces action tokens. Well, that I just described is a very sensible thing for the future of robotics. And the technology is right around the corner. But what we need to do is we need to create the effectively the world model of, as opposed to GPT, which is a language model.
Yes, exactly. Creating the world model versus the generative language model.
And this
Keep
world
that in
model
mind.
has to understand the language of the world. It has to understand physical dynamics, things like gravity and friction and inertia. It has to understand geometric and spatial relationships. It has to understand cause and effect. If you drop something, it falls to the ground. If you poke at it, it tips over.
How I look at it, guys, for physical AI is if you're thinking, put yourself in the shoes of a robot. How are you going to know anything in the world around you? You need to put aside what you know, and what you've known your whole life as a human. Think of it like a robot that doesn't know anything within the physical realm. It's completely different than, using a software and doing things like that. That is physical AI, and that's why this is going to become a major narrative at some point, because it is going to be very necessary for any sort of robots, any sort of physical infrastructure to have some sort of spatial awareness within the physical world. And actually NVIDIA just released their NVIDIA Cosmos, a world foundation model platform for physical AI. I'm not going to go into this. You guys definitely should look into this too. I mean, it's overall just very interesting, You can learn a lot just listening to, what other founders of some of the most successful companies, are doing, and what they're speculating on as well. Things like that, And so, like I said, we are currently sitting at generative AI, agenic AI. Physical AI, I think, is going to be what comes next, and he's basically telling us, And so let's get into a few projects that I do think have, a very good outlook going into 2025. So there are mainly about 4 of them that I want to bring up here today. So the first one here I want to cover is Peaq. So Peaq, I think, is probably going to be one of the leaders, although it has, some downside to it. I do want to just cover a couple things. But so this is just a random thread I found. This guy kind of talks a little bit about it. But apparently, includes collaborations with the industry leaders such as NVIDIA and AWS. I just didn't even say, so what Peaq is building is some sort of layer 1 blockchain that, it works on, machine to machine communication, things like that. But the thing is they have a ton of different actual machines and devices already working on their chain right now. I mean, 43,000. Total user accounts 94K. Total transactions since launch 2 million. 41 new DPINs joined the Peaq ecosystem, spanning 22 industries. So it's basically a layer 1 blockchain for a lot of physical AI to be built on top of. I actually think fundamentally this is a very strong project already in the works, and it's, I don't want to say it's under the radar because the coin itself is sitting at a few hundred million, I think almost 400 million right now or something like that. They do have a lot of backing as well, but Peaq's vision is powering a regenerative machine economy where the more value machines create, the more everyone earns. DeepIn model will become part of everyday life, integrated into communities and economies. And these are just some projects, I guess, building on top of Peaq as well. But overall, it's pretty interesting. But one thing that I do want to say with Peaq, their tokenomics are something I very much so question. It seems like many of the new projects, regardless of the narrative, regardless of the team, and again, a very strong team as well with Peaq here, but they do have an inflationary supply, and it's just it's very confusing, guys, with a lot of this stuff. But overall, I would say tokenomics are probably not something I would be super bullish on. This personally is somewhat throwing me off of the project, but there's no insane unlocks aside from, just monthly unlocks can be pretty hefty. I mean, this is month 0 into month 1, 2, 3, and you can kind of see like the amount of percent that's unlocked. About a percent. So it's not horrible, but at the same time, their token utility itself doesn't have anything like super major. It's not like it's something like virtuals where, you use the token to actually buy different agents or something, things like that. But they do have staking. But what I noticed too is their staking is they actually have about 3.5% of the supply is consistently basically released into circulation on top of existing circulation every year because it's inflationary. But a lot of the the tokens that are actually currently locked right now, not on the market, a lot of these tokens you can actually stake. So a lot of these people that are actually getting vesting, they're seeing unlocks right now, they're actually staking as well. A lot of these people are staking, but they're also earning rewards on the coins that they don't even actually own yet. So there's some things where I kind of question with Peaq as far as tokenomics, but again, I think if this becomes a forefront narrative, which I assume it will be at some point, and we're in some sort of full-blown bull market at some point very soon, I don't think the tokenomics are going to matter that much. I know sometimes a lot of people might say, if the tokenomics are even remotely bad, just avoid it. But for me, when we're in a major bull run, guys, we're waiting for a lot of coins to really just start moving, especially with my thesis here behind this narrative, because we're seeing different narratives kind of rotate. I think that this is going to be a narrative, in which people really start to flock to, almost like after AI agents. So as far as if a narrative pump happens within an ecosystem like Peaq, within an entire narrative like this, I don't think that any sort of unlocks like this are going to matter that much. When a narrative gets hyped, guys, these coins pump like crazy, But so Peaq, personally, I do not own. I don't know if I want to even own this as far as because of the tokenomics, but within the narrative, I think this is a very strong project. Fundamentals, they have a lot of stuff going on already with it. I did just want to bring this one up because this looks like if there is going to be a clear winner within the space, regardless of tokenomics, regardless of what I think or anyone thinks, seems like the market has already chose this as a clear leader. But that is Peaq. That's not really too much of an in-depth look into it. If I end up becoming a hyper bull for Peaq, guys, I'll probably make a real full in-depth video on it. But this is just some of the stuff that I read in this tweet here. But I do want to pull up another project, which is actually my favorite and most bullish project, in my personal opinion, within this, vertical. Yes, within DeepIn itself, but, I think robotics as a niche within DeepIn is almost like a sub-narrative within it. But I think Elki here, I think, is going to be a top performing DeepIn robotics / AI project probably the rest of the cycle. This is probably one of the most comfortable holds. I do own this coin. So let's get into Elki here because, I've covered it on the channel a couple times. So Elki, the reason why I'm bullish on it, they are working on, when I say physical AI, that is legit exactly what they're working on. They're in a kind of niche. They call it spatial computing, spatial intelligence. But what it is they're building the infrastructure for physical AI to be able to navigate and communicate in the physical realm. Building the DeepIn for AI perception, a decentralized machine perception network for the next 100 billion people, devices, and AI on Earth and beyond. When it comes down to Elki, how they market themselves, how they operate, it's probably one of the best that I've seen in a long time within the space. If I actually go to their Twitter here, which I'll pull it up, their founder here, his name is at Brewed Sugar. His name is Nils. I'll pull him up in a minute as well. But Elki, to me, it looks incredible. They're actually about to speak. What is this? At a huge conference. What conference, though? I didn't actually catch this when I read it the other day. Or not the other day, rather earlier. It just dropped today. Keynote speech on AI. Well, either way, that's pretty cool. So, yeah, very cool. So they're going to be speaking literally with Meta. All these different people are going to be there. Yeah, very cool on that. I actually kind of missed that. But so this is Elki. This is their Twitter at Elki Network. We can go even to their website, which we were just there. But I think what they're building as far as with robotics is probably one of the best that I've seen in this space. There's one other project I want to cover in a minute. But, their founder is very active on Twitter as well. 70% of the world's economy is still tied to physical locations and labor, limiting our ability to collaborate with AI. Elki's mission is to improve civilization's intercognitive capacity, our ability to think together, experience, and solve problems together with each other and AI. So some notable things too, which I think is pretty cool. They're actually partnering with, I don't know if it's just one or multiple grocery stores, because they actually have an application out that is live in which you can use to navigate in grocery stores, to find where certain products are. Almost like an XR, VR type application. Depending on the grocery store and their setup, they integrate it where you can, like I said, you can use it to actually navigate to find different items within the store where, something like before, something like Elki was even around, it's like, that would be very hard to do, But again, the way that they operate their project, I think, is very top tier. I'm trying to find the founder here. Let's go to Nils. Because he is very, he's a huge advocate, obviously, of his own project, but the way that he markets, and he's consistently online, he's consistently replying to people. For me, when you're in crypto, one of the best things to do is you should bet on founders, especially when they are delusionally bullish on their own mission. And you would expect that anyone who launches a project, is going to be that bullish on themselves, but I'm not going to lie, it's pretty rare. But Nils, I think, is one of those diamonds in the rough. But you guys can scroll through his feed, you can scroll through Elki. I just think Elki looks incredible to me. And obviously, so with their token too, so this is wrong here. Because their current circulating is in between 10 to 20% as well, similar to Peaq. They do have, fairly consistent unlocks, but their token is deflationary. And, obviously chart looks very good as well too. But I firmly think this is going to keep going, depending on whatever Bitcoin does, whatever this bull market has in store. But I think as time goes on, I think as this narrative does start to develop, especially if NVIDIA really starts pivoting, more, even from how they market and what they're always talking about, if they start going into spatial AI and things like that, physical AI, something like Elki, I think, can get a lot more traction, which would be very bullish for it, obviously. Because this is actually similar to what NVIDIA Cosmos is building, a world foundation model platform or physical AIs. Similar, but obviously same idea. So let's cover, I was going to cover maybe two more projects, but Roko is another project. So this one is a project that's fairly under the radar. So why don't we go to Roko here? So Roko has actually been around for a long time, and I don't think many people really know this project. Tokenomics and stuff are actually a lot better than most projects. They have a good amount actually circulating right now. And like I said, it's been out for a while. But same thing, I just don't think robotics itself has had a major narrative catalyst, and a major, narrative pump yet. So I don't really think this one has fully had its run yet either. But this is their X. You can go to their X, which is at Roko Network. But this I just wanted to highlight too is something that they're working on, their robotic teleoperation. Their module extends to robotics, a robotic simulation platform by enabling users to remotely control physical robots through an intuitive, decentralized application, ADAP. This module seamlessly bridges virtual simulations with real-world robotic operations, facilitating real-time interaction monitoring and management of robotic systems, post-construction and testing. What's interesting here is to actually use this, they're requiring a certain amount of Roko tokens, which is it's a good utility, especially if it means you got to lock a lot of tokens up, taking it out of circulation to then use some sort of DAP, right? But something about Roko too is, they are actually building physical robots. They have, I don't know what kind of partnership or if, something like that along those lines with, it's a Point Blank LLC is what they're called. And they are building, physical infrastructure on top of some, simulation slash software, I guess, if you want to put it. But I mean, they just got a little bit of stuff too, and something they do have is it's a physical egg. I think it's pretty cool. High performance edge computing utilizes NVIDIA's Jetson AGX, data acquisition, AI inference. Some of this stuff just it's like you don't see projects really doing this, right? I think it's pretty cool. But like these are just some of their physical things. But I could keep going on random stuff that they have, but I don't want to make this video either 40 minutes to an hour. Last project I do want to cover though is actually a very old project. This one is called XRT, Robonomics Network. I actually remember this project from the last bull run. This one I did heavy research on this last bull run. I thought it was pretty cool even back then. But it seems like more so now than ever, especially with physical AI becoming kind of the forefront for where NVIDIA is going to be working on next. Something like XRT is going to have, a lot of potential going forward. But this is why I just wanted to bring this one to your attention, guys. Again, this is just for research purposes on all this stuff. Just to give you guys a rundown of, to my knowledge, different robotics-based projects. Because within crypto, there's not even a sector on CoinGecko, CoinMarketCap. There's nothing like that. So it's like you really just got to dig and just learn through whether it's X or people just to find, what kind of projects that are out that kind of do this, But something like this also could be considered IoT, like Internet of Things a little bit. But they do have a little bit of a description here too. But I kind of just want to go on their Twitter, show you guys a couple things. So the Twitter is AIRA_Robonomics. Same thing with them is, again, it's a little older, but they are building a bunch of different actual devices, like physical devices. But overall, it's a pretty interesting project. But they just also got a robot as well, which is pretty cool. You can actually rent it out. Actually, right here, they just added this. A Unitree G1 humanoid robot. Excuse me. And I think they went to an event. Pretty cool. I don't know. Just wanted to bring this up and show you guys, because this has been something on my radar too. But, outside of, some of these coins I've talked about, like I was saying, I think Elki, in my personal opinion, is easily my favorite coin on, in this whole list. I really like Elki, just as a long-term hold going forward. I feel very comfortable holding a coin where I know the founder is really going to deliver, and at least tokenomics, aren't horrible. They're definitely sustainable for the time being, even though, yes, they are consistently unlocking, but it is what it is, guys. It's like, especially if you're playing with newer narratives, newer projects, It's like a lot of coins are going to have unlocks. Like you can't fight it. Unless you're dealing with coins that are a cycle and a half old, which in most cases I would say never ever do that. Um, you know, there's not many projects that when they launch within one cycle, that have a major chunk of supply already unlocked, things like that. If a project does that, that's actually really bullish, but it's fairly rare, I have to say. But outside of that, guys, definitely check out some of the stuff. You can even just look on X, just type in, NVIDIA, the most recent stuff. I can even link it in the description. But just some of this stuff, guys, you can learn so much just listening to these founders talk about. It's what are they focusing on? Super cool. Because they even go into the agentic AI, AI PCs, physical AI, autonomous vehicles, robotics as well. They go into separately, which is cool, which I didn't even cover. But overall, that's what I wanted to cover because, in my opinion, there's just no reality where, robotics, physical AI doesn't become some sort of narrative within crypto. I think the only reason why it wouldn't is if for some reason this bull run just kind of subsides fairly early for than we expect, and AI agents still just maintain that dominance for that span of, whether it's another month, whether it's another 6 months, right? But until we see that shift into robotics or physical AI, I just don't see why this won't be another major narrative after. So that's what I wanted to cover. I'm super bullish on this narrative as a whole. There's even a few coins on Solana, some very degenerate stuff you guys can even look into to try and be early, to front run this kind of meta, even a narrative. You might be holding things for a while, but I think being very early to the next meta most times is way better, than trying to FOMO in late to a current meta. So that's what I like to focus on, is looking at different narratives before everyone else is looking at them. That's how I play this game, and especially in a rotational type market right now, I think trying to bet on the next major rotational narrative is going to be very important to focus on. So that is what I wanted to bring up. Again, this is all research purposes. I'm not trying to make this video, buy all these tokens, guys. I'm just showing you guys a broad range of what I think is, a good overview at least of this narrative. So I appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.